Well, it's the biggest rout to hit the NDA government as it completes its first year. Sushma Swaraj, who was rated as one of the top ministers, is in the midst of a controversy over helping former IPL chief Lalit Modi get travel documents in Britain. Questions are now being raised by the Congress party on whether she did it in her personal capacity as the EAM, that is the External Affairs Minister, or was the Prime Minister's office aware of these details? Was the Finance Ministry as well aware of what Sushma Swaraj was doing? So the question that the Congress is now asking, why is the ED conducting a probe on the one hand when the External Affairs Minister of the country is helping the same fugitive with travel documents in Britain? So even though the BJP and the RSS have come out in strong defense of Sushma Swaraj, the Congress is now hitting out at the PM and the Finance Ministry. Consulting editor Rajdeep Sardesai is now joining us with a perspective. Rajdeep, the Congress, after the BJP came out with a strong defense of Sushma Swaraj, is now targeting the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister. Is there much answering to do on part of the government?
Well, there are serious questions that the government has to answer, particularly in the context of the fact that Sushma Swaraj clearly has kept this entire process hidden over almost a year now. The fact that this special favor was granted to someone who is wanted in this country, against whom there was a blue corner notice, against whom there are serious charges of money laundering, who is wanted by the Enforcement Directorate, that such a special favor is done to this individual, clearly suggests that there is more than the government needs to answer beyond saying that there is no quid pro quo and therefore Sushma Swaraj did it purely on humanitarian grounds. If it was done on humanitarian grounds, why was there this cloak of secrecy over it? Why was it not made public? Why was it not revealed earlier? That it took a Sunday Times London report where the details have come out in the context of a British MP, Keith Vaz, and his involvement in this, and thereby the fact that he took the advice of Sushma Swaraj has brought it out in the open. But the government will have to answer, and Ms. Swaraj will also have to answer, what was it that led her to decide to give this special favor? Was it simply the fact that there was this cancer treatment that his wife needed, or was there something more to it? So clearly this case, in a sense, Maha, is reminiscent of what happened to another foreign minister almost more than 2 decades ago, Madhav Singh Solanki, who also had to step down because he at that stage had intervened in the contentious Bofors investigation. Now you've got a minister who's also been accused of being of effectively assisting someone who is wanted by the authorities. So I think Sushma Swaraj and the BJP and the RSS, who have now backed her at the moment, cannot simply go by the one-liners. They will have to give many more details of the exact nature of the relationship that existed between Ms. Swaraj and Mr. Lalit Modi. Was there a conflict of interest? And I think that is the key factor. Was there a conflict of interest? If there is a conflict of interest, I think Ms. Swaraj faced a tough time. If there was no conflict of interest, then obviously she could well claim that it was done purely on humanitarian grounds. But would it be done for any other individual, or was there a special case in the case of Mr. Lalit Modi? All
right, Fahad Halim of the CPM is also joining us from Kolkata. Sir, you know, the Congress is asking very pertinent questions at this point, specifically about the fact that the External Affairs Minister helped a fugitive. They are taking it to the extent of saying, would you help a fugitive like Daud Ibrahim in a case on humanitarian grounds? Do you think that this matter won't end today, despite the fact that the RSS and the BJP have come out strongly batting for Sushma Swaraj, saying she did so purely on humanitarian grounds?
Well, one has to be very clear about the effects of this humanitarian effort undertaken by the External Affairs Minister. The first aspect is that this entire process has been kept under wraps for almost a year, and the BJP, by avoiding a press conference and answering questions that this situation has thrown up, they would like to keep it under wraps for a couple of more days. The second thing is that during an ongoing investigation, if we see that any central minister is forwarding a hand to the accused, then what happens to the investigative process itself? we've got 4,800 crores. This scandal which is under investigation, the investigation officers will definitely get a signal out of this what you call effort, despite whatever outcome politically Sushma Swaraj has to suffer. And number 3, how does a criminal who is under investigation gets access to the external affairs minister, and the external affairs minister is actually in conversation with somebody who is under investigation by the government of India, and that conversation leads to a situation where she actually goes ahead and speaks on his behalf to another what you call government. She's been speaking to the British government and officials in the British government on behalf of a person who is under investigation.
That's right.
You know, these are the 3 complex issues that come across.
Yes.
But one small issue I would like to mention. Sushma Swaraj has said that she has extended the humanitarian effort because she believed that Lalit Modi had to be in Portugal to sign the consent papers for his wife's operation. That's a very small issue, but it's unfortunate that as a minister she doesn't understand that for operations in Europe you do not require the husband's consent. So, you know, the very understanding that was the basis of our humanitarian effort is misleading. She's trying to mislead the people of India.
All right, that's a very important point you've highlighted there, Mr. Aleem, that in Europe the consent of the husband is not required solely when the wife is undergoing a procedure. Let me go across now to Kamaljeet Kaur Sandhu. She was at the Congress press conference this afternoon where they posed some 11 questions to the BJP, asking them and cornering them rather on major aspects. Kamal, one of the aspects was that on the one hand, one arm of the government, that is the Enforcement Directorate, is carrying out a probe against Lalit Modi. On the other, External Affairs Ministers helping him. They are completely pinning down the FM and the PMO at this point. Is that the line that they are likely to take in the next few days?
Well, absolutely, Maha. As a matter of fact, the entire press conference, they posed 11 questions, but the BJP has given this entire controversy on a platter to the Congress party. Now, besides that, they also gave a fact sheet of that sort. If we can try and show you that paper that they've given out, they've also given some reasonable facts saying that Mr. Chidambaram, at that point of time, the finance minister, had written 2 letters to the Chancellor of Exchequer, Mr. George Osborne, asking him for action against IPL chief Lalit Modi, and saying besides taking action, they had also demanded an extradition. So obviously, leaving beyond doubt that he was a convict, he's running away, he was a fugitive, that action was being demanded by the UPA government. So what is the change in stance as far as Modi government is concerned? And is Modi aiding Modi? Is he like any other fugitive? If Dawood Ibrahim comes tomorrow and asks for certain help, will the Indian government really oblige on a humanitarian ground? So these are the poser questions which have been put by the Congress party, but this is something that they would really want to posture and move on further. And remember, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj has kept a very low key in terms of her entire tenure for the past 1 year. This is the time they would want to hit out both at Sushma Swaraj as well as Narendra Modi.
All right, let me go across to Sanjay Jha, spokesperson of the Congress party. Mr. Jha, do you believe that the defense that the RSS and the BJP have given for Sushma Swaraj today, saying that she did so purely on humanitarian grounds, is something that you all are not buying, and you all will continue going all guns blazing, not just against Sushma Swaraj, but also against the Prime Minister and the Finance Ministry?
Maha, this is not just about the Congress party raising objections against what appears to be an extremely controversial, if not altogether a contravention of all, government protocol in the conduct of the External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj. I think you can hear on your own TV, various opposition members are demanding Sushma Swaraj's resignation. Because see, the fact of the matter is that Lalit Modi is legally absconded. I mean, if that term has any currency, then what are you talking about? You're talking about somebody who's a serious economic offender, who's violated various norms of the country. Serious investigative agencies like the Enforcement Directorate, the Income Tax, Foreign Exchange Authorities have all been trying to seek a trial in his case. And he's willfully settled in UK and has not complied with several fiats and issues going to him from the Indian government. So here you have a very established offender whom the government of India's very senior cabinet minister actually has willfully and fully aware of the facts of the case, has tried to help. Now, I think the very key element is the letter written by Mr. Keith Vaz, where he writes to the UK Immigration Office and says, this seems to be the changed stance of the Indian government. So Sushma Swaraj, if she is acting in a personal capacity, then in that case, that is anyway a violation of what ought to be the rules of conduct that actually she is liable to. On the other hand, if this is the changed stance of the government, then I think that is a massive, in my opinion, a corruption issue, because here is an external affairs minister pursuing her own personal interest in getting Mr. Modi a visa document, and in doing so, she's changing the stance of the government.
So,
I mean,
Mr.
this is
Sanjay
something that the government is obliged to make a public disclosure
Sanjay
on.
Jha, will the Congress party only go after Sushma Swaraj, asking for her resignation or asking for her to step down as the external affairs minister, or will you all continue asking questions about whether the Prime Minister was in the loop and the Finance Ministry was aware that this leeway is being given to Lalit Modi, who's a fugitive?
Well, Maha, let me tell you, one doesn't have to be a Nostradamus to figure out that if the External Affairs Minister is going out of her way to try and obtain a visa document from Mr. Modi, who is a known, serious, and frankly speaking has grave charges of economic offences against the country, then how do you expect a dispassionate, neutral investigation being done by Mr. Arun Jaitley's Finance Ministry? And surely the Prime Minister cannot be totally unawares of it. And if the Prime Minister was unaware of it, I mean, somewhere down the line, someone in this government has to say, well, where does the buck stop and what action are you going to take?
Okay, Smita, let me get you in at this point. Smita, Deputy Editor, standing outside Sushma Swaraj's residence. Sushma Swaraj has put out her defence on Twitter, Smita, but this point being raised by the Congress party now on whether she did it in her own personal capacity as the EAM, or was the Prime Minister aware of the situation, that has not been made clear by her.
Well, yes, and there are a couple of other questions too, in fact, that still need to be clarified by Sushma Swaraj or her party or the government itself. But remember, you know, hectic consultations or hectic telephonic conversations, meetings have been happening since morning. If Sambit Patra was here, Sushma Swaraj also spoke to Narendra Modi. Rajnath Singh went and met Narendra Modi after having that conversation with Sushma Swaraj. We also believe, in fact, there will be, some more meetings happening through the course of this evening as well. Remember, Maha, in the past also, you know, we've had controversies around external affairs ministers. You had Natwar Singh with that infamous Volker controversy of Iraq. You had Shashi Tharoor, in fact, whose post in a way got snatched away, given that sweet deal allegation in the IPL itself. So, you know, Sushma Swaraj's daughter, Bansuri Swaraj, had represented, in fact, she was on that legal defense team of Lalit Modi when the case was being argued against the revocation of his passport. So they will have to come and explain, perhaps in more clearer terms, if there was some impropriety, some conflict of interest here or not.
Javed, very briefly from you, because we are running out of time, do you think that the government will, over the next couple of hours tonight, do more homework on this issue and come out with a better statement? Because right now, all the sides have been defending Sushma only on the humanitarian grounds aspect.
I'm sure, like I said earlier, the last has certainly not been heard of it, and if the Congress party's press conference is anything to go by, the attacks will only get sharper as the days go by. Tomorrow we will hear some more on this, and therefore the government needs to do its homework and defend Ms. Swaraj a lot better, because tomorrow questions will be asked whether she did inform the Finance Ministry. Did she take their view on board? Because he's a proclaimed offender. The several departments under the Finance Ministry are investigating him. So was their view taken on board or not? Certainly the government has many more questions to answer.
All right, Javed Ansari, Fuad Halim, Sanjay Jha, Smita Sharma, Kamaljeet Kaur Sandhu and Rajdeep Sardesai, many thanks for joining us with details and perspective on this big story that has put the government in a very difficult spot.